When is it okay to change the rules in the middle of a game? I want to talk about it today on Greyhawk Grognard. Just a reminder, this is a collaboration video I'm doing with Joe the Lawyer and Eric Tenkar of Tenkar's Tavern. So if you're watching me on one of their channels, please do like and subscribe to me. And if you're going to watch one of them on my channel, please like and subscribe to them. That said, let's get going. When we talk about the idea of changing the rules in the middle of the game, a lot depends on the exact definition of what we're talking about. And the devil is in the details. So we got to tease out what we mean, and then we can answer the question intelligently. So there's a number of different ways you can do this. Are we talking about actually going from one rule set to another in the middle of a game session? I think most people are going to agree that's not that's not what you think of. It's like, okay, we're playing RuneQuest, and then we open the door. No, wait, let's now we're playing Rollmaster. Okay, no, that's not that's not what we're talking about. Another way to look at it would be to change the rules of the game during a campaign, but between game sessions. So you see this a lot when you want to change like editions. You know, if like a new edition comes out, you're done with one session, and then the players and the DM talk about it, and hey, okay, we're going to go from we're going to start including all the stuff from Unearthed Arcana, or we're going to go from D&D 3.0 to 3.5. Let's adjust our character sheets and stuff. That is much more acceptable in my opinion. That's a normal thing. Even if you're going to change game rules entirely, you're going to go from, say, RuneQuest to Tunnels and Trolls or something like that. That's usually when you're going that drastically, you're just going to start a whole new campaign. So that's that's obviously people do that all the time. People say, okay, we're done. We're done with this campaign. Let's play something new. Oh yeah, we just finished our D&D game. Let's start a Call of Cthulhu game. That's all perfectly, nobody bats an eye at that. But what I think we're getting at in the core of this question, and really where the philosophical problem comes in, is what do you do if the DM changes the rules on the fly during the game? And we're talking, I think, ultimately it comes down to rules versus rulings, right? So when we're talking about changing the rules, let's say the rules for the AD&D first edition. Somebody says, "Oh, I want to try to tackle the orc." Then the game grinds to a halt while the DM gets out the DM's guide and tries to figure out what the overbearing rules are like, and then you just go ahead and you do it. If you're playing by the rules, that's what you're supposed to do. But 9 times out of 10, I think DMs are just going to wing it. They're going to make a ruling rather than using the rules. And I think that's really the key here. If it's me, I'm just going to say, okay, roll a d20. And I'll just wing it. And by doing that, I'm changing the rules in the middle of the game, not just in the middle of the game session. I am literally changing the rules to suit my preferences. And I think it's all very circumstantial. It really depends on the circumstances. Are you doing it specifically to help or hurt the party? I might have a little more problem with that if you're trying to put your thumb on the scales rather than, oh, I'm going to do it just to make things flow better. If you're playing Top Secret, there's even it says in the rules for Top Secret, New World Order. If you need to make a ruling to make the game flow faster, go ahead and do it, because you're improving the play experience for the players. And I think in those circumstances, it's perfectly fine to do that. If you want to, you're doing a ruling on the fly, or you're changing a rule on the fly. You say, okay, that doesn't really work. It's going to be like this now. Boom. I think you're as long as you then do it consistently like that, I think you're fine. If the intention is to improve the game experience, improve the flow of play for the players. Where I would have a problem with it is if the players are having too easy a time because of some rule that's in the game. And they're like exploiting some rule, and then in the middle of the session, the DM just says, "No, you can't do that anymore. I'm changing the game." I think that's kind of a wrong way to approach that. And, you might want to, between sessions, might want to say, okay, obviously, guys, this rule is broken. Let's change it this way. But if you do it on the fly in the middle of the session and all of a sudden a rule that the players were relying on to work a certain way is now working a different way, I don't think that's really tenable. And I think that kind of breaks the unwritten agreement between DM and players that the DM is supposed to be a neutral referee rather than putting his thumb on the scale. So there's a lot of permutations of the question, but I think that's I think that breaks it down into probably its most common ways of looking at it. So those are my thoughts. I would love to hear yours. Please do chime in on the comments. We will doubtless be talking about this and other topics during our live stream on Sunday. So do check it out then. Hope you're all having a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will talk to you all later.
Thanks for watching today's video. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Below you'll find links to my Patreon, which helps make these videos possible. You'll also find the web store where you can buy my books, and my blog where you'll find all sorts of free downloads and other articles. Thanks, and have a great day.